Good morning, everyone in Scandinavia, and welcome again to this USN Travel Talk. For everybody who has not been on this travel talk before, these are talks we do with the various partners around the world. My name is Christine. Many knows me already, and I just pick out a few of our partners, talk about how the pandemic is going in their country, what they have been doing, and how they can welcome, Scandinavians back again to them. And today, I was saying tonight, but it's a kind of a mixed thing. So today, we got Matthew with us from Destination Asia in Singapore. Yeah, I know Matthew is, are you New Zealander or Australian? What do you reckon?
I'm a mix and a match. Born in Australia, grew up in New Zealand.
Yeah, so it's kind of like on that side. And we're going to talk a little bit how Singapore has been during the pandemic, and you're going to tell me a little bit what's popping up and what's happening, and what we can expect in the future as well. I see we got quite a few with us. We got at least 6 people in here, so that's really nice to hear. And Matthew, you've been. It's a Matt or Matthew?
Matt is absolutely fine.
Okay, just checking. I know you've been in Singapore, of course, during the whole lockdown. You got kids as well there, so you've been trying to have like a family life during the whole pandemic and the lockdown. How long time did you have the lockdown actually in Singapore?
So we started early last year because Singapore was one of the early adopters of COVID. I think we were number 2 country after China. But pretty much the government here shut the borders. We were one of the first in the world to shut borders, and we went into full lockdown straight away. So I think my wife's been working from home since January, and I think we were about February, March that we moved into working from home. And still at the moment, like our weekly cases now are 0 to 1 case a week. But we're still, the government really forces and make sure that we work from home where possible is the key, and we can be in groups of 8 at one time at this stage.
Okay, so at home you can have people or 8 people at home, or maximum 8, totally maximum people at home for visitors. Right.
Yeah.
So and of course Singapore is a melting pot. Singapore, so it is business, it's corporate, it's tourism. So how do you feel? Because you're like working for a tourist company. How it's been for you in terms of full lockdown, closed borders?
Yeah, look, it has been a challenge. I must be honest, but we've been very lucky with what Singapore Tourism Bureau and the government's done here. The government in particular, because the travel sector, everything from leisure to MICE to cruise, it plays a huge part in the Singapore business and economy here. So the government rolled out straight away that they supported local staff, so Singaporean staff. They paid 50% of their salaries for the first nearly a year. The Singapore Tourism Bureau, because we don't have a huge domestic, because we are an island destination, so we don't have a huge domestic travel destination for locals to go travel. So what the local government and the Singapore Tourism Bureau did, as well as they gave every Singaporean $150 credit, which they could use at hotels, attractions, restaurants and everything, just to kind of keep things moving along here. But we've got some exciting news coming up, which I'll share a little bit later on. We do have some green lanes open already. But we'll slowly but surely start opening up some of those other borders. And yes, vaccines have started here in Singapore. And it's actually interesting. It's the elderly, of course, frontline staff at hospitals, and then travel and tourism sector is next on the list as well, which is fantastic to hear.
That's very good. So they actually prioritize these people who's going to be in contact with people after, the vulnerable. So they, like everybody else, they're going on the elderly and frontline staff, of course, but it's nice to see that they're actually putting the travel sector on next in line in terms of hospitality, probably hotel staff and everything next in line to get vaccinated. So how is life actually in Singapore now for you?
Honestly, everything's now open. We wear masks now, so it is compulsory to wear a mask outside. The other addition is we have this thing called Safe Check-in, and it's on your mobile phone, and it's an app, and we have to scan QR codes to enter any taxi, restaurant, venue, attraction, anything. And the reason why the government's doing that, not just to track people, but is if there is any outbreak or a case, they're able to automatically message you were in one of those areas, please go to a testing station immediately, or pretty much like mine. Every day it's you're fine. But from that side, it really has been normal. I pop into the office once every couple of weeks, and some businesses are running normally. Singapore is also, of course, a regional hub for a lot of most multinationals that want to have presence in Asia, and Singapore is an easy destination for that. So a lot of the insurance, the banking, the IT sector have had zero impact whatsoever.
Okay. And so for people, is there any people who can arrive into Singapore at the moment?
No, so at the moment, no, there is essential business travel requirements allowed to come through. We do have some green lanes open with countries like Japan and New Zealand, where they don't have to do quarantine. But with the opening of Singapore slowly but surely, because I don't know if you've read in the news, but World Economic Forum will be held in Singapore, the first time outside of Europe. And I think that both our discussions with STB is really, they're going to use that as a testing pilot for bringing in international guests, tracking, making sure that they're all safe, and of course the wellness is all through there. So from that side, we're starting to move in the right direction, which is great to see.
Excellent. And it's nice, like I said, we talked about this earlier as well, that the 150 Singapore dollar is almost like a reverse kind of subsidized in one way. Instead of just giving the money out, they're actually someone going and spending it, so it doesn't feel like they're just going out. And I think that's a very good initiative to keep the tourism business working or living as well.
Absolutely. And the other thing, just touching on that, which the government did, which again just shows how efficient and how kind of forward thinking Singapore is, they also took on hotel rooms from hotels to use as quarantine areas. So again, they paid a set amount to each hotel so they could still be open even though there were no international guests. At least they had rooms that were used for people having to quarantine and all the rest. So again, government has been very supportive of our industry in particular.
That's very good. I think we're just going to kind of head into what we're also going to talk. Of course, going to talk a bit of Destination Asia and a little bit of what's happening and what actually Singapore has to offer as well when it's opening up. Because we know that Singapore is probably going to be one of the maybe first Asian countries to open up borders a little bit more widely. But do you think, just checking in, I'm actually going to have my first dose of vaccine tomorrow. I managed to book in Dubai. It's been a bit closed on the first doses at the moment, but suddenly they're open on that, and now they're doing over 40s. So I'm eligible in that case. Just about, yeah. And then I'm going to have my first doses, and I'm doing the Pfizer vaccine because we got 3 vaccines coming in here in Dubai. So, and we're always talking about the vaccine. Do you think Singapore also going to work on that kind of lane, saying vaccinated people will be eligible to arrive into Singapore, maybe no matter which country they come from, as long as they can show up vaccine, and then maybe create green lanes with other countries who's got low numbers or whatever?
Definitely. Look, nothing official. This is just my views on it. And having some early discussions with STB. Yeah, I think the vaccine card or report or showing that you've had it is going to be the beginning of opening doors. I think maybe for the first opening of doors, what they do here in Singapore is they'll probably do a short quarantine period, and that might be just for 48 hours, for 24, where they just quickly do an antigen test just to make sure before they let out. And I know that in discussions, you're going to be sticking to an itinerary, especially for groups. So yeah, I think that will be the first door opening for us.
Okay, cool. Let's just head into what we have more say on the, like I said, we're always going to talk about Destination Asia as well in this case, and what's in place basically for Singapore and the DA.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Well, good evening, everyone from Singapore. Singapore, also known as the Lion City or the Little Red Dot, and I'm very honoured that you've taken the time to join us today. The next 20 or so minutes, we've got a couple of hopefully some interesting insights and just show you a little bit of what makes Singapore tick. So with a little bit of technology working in my side, I'd love to play just a little intro video just to get things started, and I'll see you on the other side.
There is no place like this.
There's no
place like this.
This is the place.
This is the place I call home.
our home. This is where 1212 and 112 are not just dancing steps. Where our back streets live on as galleries and museums. This is where we live amongst trees. Carve them out of metal and make them electric. Where impossibilities lead us to endless possibilities. This is where old school, new school, and what no school can teach come together. Here, every day is a new canvas. The old school cool. This is where rhymes, chimes, and the daily grind meet. There's no pain. This is where who you were will not be who you will become. This is where all that you're passionate about, all that drives you, is made possible. This is where passion is made possible.
This is your stage!
Well, Singapore is what I like to call easy Asia. Everything works, it goes in the right direction, it's modern, it's efficient, and it's well thought out. And yourself and your guests' first experience of that pure efficiency and cleanliness and modern is, of course, arriving into Changi Airport. Changi Airport has been voted best airport in the world 8 out of the last 10 years. And with the addition of the Jewel complex, which you may have seen in the travel media, which is attached to all the terminals, it really is going to cement its position as best airport in the world for a number of years to come. Singapore is one of the best connected destinations in all of Asia. We're a key hub here, not only for international flights, but also for large businesses as well. We're serviced by Singapore Airlines, which of course is an award-winning, constantly recognized as best airline in the world, along with Emirates, of course. What I love about coming into Changi Airport after a long flight is within 45 minutes to an hour, you're going to be walking into your hotel lobby. It's that efficient. By the time your plane lands, through immigration, health checks, grab your bag and taxi. And that's the one great thing about Singapore is you're not going to be spending huge travel times. We don't have traffic gridlock or anything here in Singapore. What I'd like to just do quickly is just play a little video because now post-COVID travel is now happening. And I would love to just share a video of just some of the steps that Destination Asia, as well as our whole tourism industry here in Singapore, has put into play to kind of make sure that guests are safe when they're here. So that was a bit of an understanding of what happens with leisure travel. We have an entire video as well created purely for my business as well, which is, of course, working with coaches and spacing on the coaches. But what I wanted to briefly do is just talk about some of the destinations and areas or districts that we like to call them here in Singapore, where international guests enjoy and should consider. The first on your left is Orchard Road, also known as our Orchard District. This is, of course, is crammed with some of the best shopping you'll find in Asia. It's filled with restaurants, cafes, museums. Hotels that we love using, of course, are the Grand Hyatt, the Shangri-La, the St. Regis, the Hilton, and the Marriott. And for those that are always looking for something a little bit different or a little bit more local, the Goodwood Park is a historical hotel that has a wonderful history here in Singapore. The next top right is Sentosa Island. Sentosa has had a huge amount of investment and development to really bring it up to scratch, filled with beach clubs, Universal Studios, a heap of other attractions. This is actually an island. It's connected to the mainland of Singapore via road, cable car, and monorail. Our hotels here are the trendy W Sentosa, the Sofitel, the Barracks, which is an adult-only hotel, and of course the Capella Hotel, which was made world famous. President Trump and the North Korean leader had their meeting a couple of years ago. The last and most photographed part is our CBD. We call it the Marina Bay District. Filled restaurants, museums, gallery, nightlife, you name it, and more hotels than you could select from. Some of our key favorite ones that we really do, of course, the Raffles Hotel, the historic world-renowned hotel, has just finished a 2-year refurb and is looking absolutely stunning. Other hotel that has got historical is the Fullerton Hotel, which used to be the Grand Post Office of Singapore and is now being converted into a beautiful 5-star hotel. Of course, we have the iconic Marina Bay Sands property, which is, again, probably most photographed here in Singapore. But we also have the Ritz-Carlton, the Mandarin Orient, and, of course, the Marriott South Beach, and plenty of others. Standard-wise of hotels, you don't need to worry. A 4-star here in Singapore is the equivalent of a 5-star international in Singapore. So I can guarantee the hotels will meet the requirements of any guests coming through. Now, a little bit about Singapore itself, because Singapore has maybe some views on it, but I can tell you that it is a huge melting pot here. Your guests and yourself are going to get to experience Chinese, Malay, Indian, European, of course, from the British heritage here. And Singaporeans are really proud about that history. They love sharing it. You'll see it in the architecture, you'll see it in the activities, and most importantly, the food. Singapore is also a real contrast. We are an island destination. However, we're not sleepy. We're full of buzz. We're wealthy. There's lights. There's just lots of stuff going on here. And guests are really going to enjoy that of all ages. One thing I get asked quite regularly here in Singapore is, what is the biggest takeaway? What is the biggest wow factor? What was the biggest surprise to guests coming here? And the feedback I get is the food. The food here is absolutely insane, and you must try it. I'm going to play again just a short little video that just explains a little bit of the background of food, and I'll see you straight after.
This is where we're guided by tastes and smells. Through kitchens, and often straight into the kitchen. From closed alleyways, rooftop getaways, and takeaways. Concoctions and inventions, and dashes and scrambles. Woks, stir-fries, pan-fried, or simply fired up. Where passion is sprinkled over every dish and garnished with possibilities of a million flavors. Here's to highballing with flair, to eyes bigger than stomachs. This is where your passion for discovering more taste than you have taste buds is made possible.
Now, food, you can probably tell from the camera, I'm a big guy and I enjoy my food. And I can tell you, I know the Nordics love their food. I know the Italians love their food. I know that the French are passionate about their food. Singapore is equal to that, I can guarantee. Singapore food culture here is crazy. The average family would eat out 4 or 5 nights a week here in Singapore. It's just because food is so accessible and it makes up. First, I want to tell you a little bit about the hawker scene here. The hawker scene is our street food. It's actually been voted best street food in the world because it's cheap, it's clean, it's efficient. You're going to get wonderful flavors, and it is a real fascinating and nothing better to sit out on a plastic chair with either a cold lime juice or an icy cold tiger beer and enjoy just a number of dishes from all around the region. We actually also have our own hawker, the only hawker Michelin star chef, which is Hawker Chan. He's the bottom middle. He does a beautiful soy chicken rice. And again, for the cost of about €1.50, €2, you're going to get to experience a Michelin star quality meal. Now, our hawker scene is fantastic, and it is not daunting as well. You know, the hawkers are usually being passed down generations. They own a little stall, and they specialize in 1 or 2 dishes. And again, this has probably been gone through about 3 generations. And again, we love to, when we're designing our programs for guests, to make sure that we introduce them to hawker so they feel comfortable moving forward. But the hawkers are very proud of what they do. They love sharing their knowledge. They also make sure spice level is not too spicy, and they talk to you about that. But hawker food is not just the only thing here in Singapore. We have over 40 Michelin star restaurants here in Singapore, and we know how important dietary requirements are these days. And Singapore is one of those destinations that really work really well with complex dietary requirements. Again, while we're putting together a program, and again, our stay length, we've seen some changing around, but what we do is we love to make sure that guests are eating on rooftops overlooking the CBD, next to a historical building, or they're in the jungle or by the river, and of course, tying in a bit of hawker food as well. Of course, after meal, what do you do? Well, any good Aussie will tell you go and wash it down with a cold beer. And Singapore's nightlife, honestly, is fantastic. I've lived here now nearly 18 years. And when I first arrived, Singapore's nightlife was okay. It was a little bit bland. It was a little bit behind that of Hong Kong and Bangkok. However, over the last decade, the nightlife here has absolutely sprouted and is absolutely amazing. We have everything for everyone. We have wonderful wine bars, cocktail bars, live music bands, as well as beach bars. We actually have 3 of the top 50 bars in the world here in Singapore, so that kind of goes to show how far we've actually come. Of course, our national cocktail is the Singapore Sling, a gin-based cocktail, very fruity, very tropical, created in the early 1900s at the Raffles Hotel, and you can still get the original at the Raffles Long Bar to this day, which is great. Our national beer, of course, you heard me mention Tiger. It's a lager. It's won a number of awards for just being a very good quality beer. We do have a whole craft beer scene as well, which is exciting to see. One thing I do want to highlight on the nightlife, because again, some destinations you do need to worry about this. You do not need to worry about safety here in Singapore. Singapore is by far the safest destination in all of Asia. Even if it's just 2 women by themselves, you do not need to worry here in Singapore. Taxis are available, everything's lit, and everything's very well maintained and regulated, which is great. And again, same with the taxis and quality. No vehicle here in Singapore is over 10 years of age. So again, we're talking a great option to get around.
Can I ask you something,
Sure.
Matthew, as well? Going back to the food, I was just checking on the hawker scenes. You said is it certain areas, isn't it, in Singapore where you got the hawkers areas, isn't it?
Yes, pretty much everywhere in Singapore has one. I mean, we have one under our office that is a hawker, but there's some that are, let's say, a bit more ambient. They have a better outlook. La Pasar in particular is too. So yeah, they're everywhere, and the best thing is you will see people eating at any time of the day. Hawker centres, most of them will be open 24 hours. Now the stalls will change timings, but I've been, should I say it? Yes, why not? I've come home at 3 o'clock in the morning, a little bit hungry after a night out, having a few drinks with some friends, and we stopped at a hawker centre, grabbed a chicken rice or a paratha or something.
Exactly.
So available. And I should mention,
Sorry, no, come on.
I should mention that there's 2 national dishes here in Singapore that have a huge fight, and it depends which side you're on. My personal vote goes to the Hainanese chicken rice, a simple looking dish but hugely complex. The chicken's been cooked in a pork bone and chicken bone stock. The rice is soaked in chicken stock with pandan leaves, and what really makes it is the chili sauce, which the locals will tell you is the key ingredient for it. The other dish, which is also absolutely stunning, is the chili crab. It's boiled, then it's super intense wok fried, served with a beautiful tomato, sweet, sour spicy sauce that has some egg mixed in, and you get served with some fried buns which you dip in. And the crabs are huge. They will feed up to a family of 4 quite easily, of course, with some side leafy dishes.
Cool. And the other thing I was thinking about when we talked about the food, because it's a bit of a time since I've been, of course, in Singapore before the pandemic. But still, again, I remember I went down Arab Street as well.
Yes, absolutely. Arab Street, all the very halal offerings, Haji Lane, which is traditional shop houses and things. That whole area is also absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and then going of course checking on how things are at now. So when you go out for the hawkers or the street food or more kind of a local restaurants and stuff, what's the measurements? Because I've been down to the hawkers area, down in Marina things, and of course a huge area, lots of people. So how is the measurements there now?
Busy. So they're back to kind of, I would say, nearly normal levels, as in hawker scene is back here in strong. Of course, cleaning has been upgraded heavily, so they're constantly. And every seat where a table of 5 or 6 people would sit, it's now been set as a table of 3 or 4 because they've got social distancing in place.
Okay, cool.
Brilliant. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what to do when you're in here in Singapore. And before I jump in, I thought, again, technology allowing, would just play a short video on what's actually happening. And, oh, Christine, it seems to have frozen here.
Are you back again?
Let me just see. I'm just playing. Here we go. All right. Christine, I might just get you to flick the slides on because mine's frozen over here.
Can you hear me now, Matt? Can you hear me? Hello? Seems like... Let's see if he comes back to us again. We'll wait to see. It seems like Matt is just having a little bit of technical problem.
Everything froze up on me. Here I am.
All right, you're back again. Yeah, thanks.
Sorry. I'm not sure why I couldn't change back to the slides, but sorry about that technical issue. So Singapore, exploring Singapore, there is a huge amount to do, and I'm not going to go through everything. I just thought I would play a couple of key things in particular and highlight. And as I mentioned, Singapore is a huge contrast of a destination, and you'll see no better example of that than our UNESCO World Heritage Botanical Gardens, which is absolutely fantastic to go through for a morning walk, a picnic, or an evening stroll. Combine that with the gardens by the bay, which of course is the futuristic super trees and flower domes of what a garden or a flower area will look like in the future. Of course, the Vespa sidecars, fantastic way for people to go and explore and view some of the back alleys of Singapore, and of course, awesome selfie opportunities right there. Again, another little one that I'd like to highlight is our perfume making, which is in actually the area you mentioned earlier, Christine, which is our Haji Lane area. Go grab an iced coffee, then you walk into this 100-year-old shop house, work with an essence master to make and create your own scent to take home with you. Our tours, we love highlighting the different cultures of like Chinatown, Little India, Haji Lane, Arab Street, and we love exploring that. And key is we love to get our guests on the ground, touching, smelling, tasting, interacting with the locals. I've lived in Asia long enough, and I know when I get a tour guide that's English speaking, sometimes that may not translate. Here in Singapore, not an issue. We use only grade A guides that I've personally traveled with to make sure they will be understood clearly. And the last one, which I just wanted to highlight, which again I just thought was quite fun, was we have Brassline, a little boutique award-winning distillery that makes gin. Guests can go and have wonderful cocktails, but then you can do a masterclass where you can mix and flavor your own gin the way that you like.
And I know also, I know I'm kind of doing these questions,
sure.
But I know close to Arab, so there was also an art area, isn't it? Like a kind of an art deco street thing there as well.
Correct, yeah. And again, there's a Singapore arts really come up, and just in Bugis and not far from Haji Lane is a whole heap of really interesting little galleries to explore. And of course, our culture, which we have unique here in Singapore, is Peranakan. Which is unique here, and we have some amazing food, and we have access to private museums and private galleries where guests can go and actually speak to the owner and actually go and have a look around at the different shoes, clothing, artwork, everything to do with Peranakan culture here in Singapore.
Good. Excellent. I just remember that area, that I like the area walking around. And of course, coming back to touring just a short, do you do pure in vehicles, or do you see maybe other kinds of touring like walking or even biking or, more outdoor kind of things coming up?
Yeah, look, what we prefer, our perfect is a mix of everything. And again, we depends on the demographics of the person and everything. But, our subway system here is air conditioned. There's zero graffiti. It's 100% clean, and it's a great way of getting around. And again, for me, when I'm a tourist, I like to be a bit more of a traveler. I like to see what's happening. So again, our guides will use a mix of modes of transport. So again, guests can experience. But yes, we do have a van that usually meets them at certain points just to get another blast of aircon, another bottle of water, and then move on.
Okay. And do you see even walking tours and stuff like that as well?
Huge, yeah. Walking tours are really great for us. Again, the climate is warm. Rain is relatively predictable, and we find the walking tours, especially in some of the historical and the Chinatown area, and even the World War II history here in Singapore is quite fascinating. What part it played. So again, great options there.
Cool.
Brilliant. Now, what I thought I'd do really just to kind of wrap up, we've got, again, technology hopefully working. We've got a great video that just, again, shows some of the things we've done and some of the things that I've covered today, all in a bit of a wrap-up video that hopefully gives you a good understanding. So, again, let's go. Look,
Okay.
my final summary really, Christine, is just why Singapore, again, looking for groups and looking for individual travelers. Singapore works great as a single destination, as well as it works really well with some of our combined destinations here in Singapore.
I'm going to put you on big screen. I like the big screen. Yeah.
Brilliant. It works really well with some of our combined sister destinations, heading to beautiful islands like Bali, Langkawi, Phuket. We're also one of the major cruise hubs here in Asia. So again, we have some great options for guests that want to do that pre or post. And again, we've got a huge amount of nearby islands for people to explore that don't need to fly to. But again, a safe, easy destination. Hopefully we've had a little bit of an insight in there.
Exactly. And I think just to wrap it up, because I know Singapore, and I know we're getting closer to, we're passing a little bit of 30 minutes now, but it's me interrupting you all the time. But I was just thinking, because I know some of these maybe who are listening afterwards are also involved in events and MICE or incentives maybe as well. And we know Singapore as an incentive city or a destination. And thinking, we know, of course, MICE business or events is going to be the last one, maybe opening up around, especially in Europe, I think, because there have been more severe outbreaks and numbers as well. And hopefully, or it might be that actually Singapore could be an option for those ones who need to. We got multinational companies or even small incentive groups who wants to get away. And of course, Singapore, with a direct flight from Copenhagen, it's easy accessible in one way. So I'm thinking, we talked about the World Economic Forum, which is kind of happened in Singapore. As a test kind of event, see how things working, track and trace and all that in terms of that. And of course, we talked about something else as well, wasn't it? Like you checking how you can do events in Singapore at the moment.
Yeah, so Singapore, and again, we're quite heavily involved with STB here as a business helping. And recently, about a month ago, I attended their first large-scale event. It was 350 people, but with 100 international buyers coming in. And again, it was what STB is doing is they're using it as an opportunity to track, to measure, to make sure that the rules in place work, that they don't stop what we're trying to do. So again, we've seen groups from 50, now it's increased to 350, but they've done that in stages to make sure that it works really well. History has shown us, again, Asia has been through things like SARS before and swine flu. And Singapore will be probably the first to bounce back, especially in the MICE area, because again, it's a easily controllable destination. It's extremely well managed. Access Point does it, and it's always been a clean. I mean, Asians in general, whenever we've had a cold before, we all wore masks anyway. So again, exactly. I think there's some of those things that were helping, and as well as the hybrid events we were discussing earlier about what's happening with hybrid as well. Because for those that can fly in, Singapore can be the in-person. Now, pretty much every conference hotel in Singapore has already set up full broadcasting facilities in-house. Marina Bay Sands is absolutely brilliant. It's like a news studio, but again, able to be able to handle that. So yes.
So exactly. Yeah, so you're basically geared to do in-person and a hybrid, or even if they want to do full on. But I think hybrid is going to be what's coming up as well, because there will be different measurements all around the world, and you need to adjust to it. I think so. I think thank you very much, Matt. I think we managed to go through it, and of course, when we're getting closer to more opening up, and we can see Scandinavia actually can. I think first of all, Scandinavia has to open up their borders to be able to travel first before we can. But I think when we see that coming up, I think we're going to have another talk just to see how things are and what to expect, I think, as well. Fantastic. When they can travel. So thank you very much. Have a nice evening. I think we're going towards evening for you, isn't it? Or late afternoon. Yep. And enjoy whatever is left of the day. And we'll speak to you later.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.